Ah, beer. It's one of the oldest and most beloved beverages ever made by man. Dating back to ancient Egypt, beer has some seriously deep and delicious roots. None sweeter than Chicago's Goose Island Beer Company. Pour yourself a pint and get ready for a very frothy story.
My name is Adam Voss. I'm a father, an entertainer, and I'm a marketing geek on the hunt for cool brands. I've only got 12 minutes to tell you about their stories in our city. This is 12 for 12.
Since 1988, Goose Island has been producing some of Chicago's best beer and has grown into one of the most popular craft breweries in the U.S. I decided to check it out myself and see what they do in the tasting room.
This is Sophie. We age about 10% of this beer in oak-neutral wine barrels. Anytime you're trying a new beer, you kind of want to go through a progression. You hold it up, look at it. What do you notice in this beer?
The light refracting through the glass. It's got a really cool color.
It's a little hazy. Then the next thing you do is you want to smell it.
I smell citrus, I smell
fresh grass.
Oh yeah.
So then we're gonna taste it. And when we taste it, just hold it in your mouth for a little bit longer than you usually would.
Man, that is good.
Yeah.
Can we get some oysters?
The beer IQ in the United States is getting higher and higher. So this is all good. In 1980, do you know how many breweries there were in the United States? 79. But right now there's about 4,500 breweries in the United States.
Yikes.
Chicagoland, we've got 90 plus breweries. I always like to say opening up a brewery today, it's like opening up a pizza parlor in Chicago. I'm sure you've got 10 pizza parlors that you already love, so yeah, you'll try this new guy, but if it's not great.
Right, I mean, end to end, you have to have a great story, you have to have a great product, great ingredients, great people, great passion. I like the whole thing.
The whole bit.
How do you create beers that people want to drink?
I think you start as a beer lover. Then you're just doing what you and your fellow beer lovers enjoy. We're all here because we love beer.
We got people on their free time who are chefs, gardeners, musicians, people who
are makers.
They're makers.
Yeah.
And so I think that one of the things that ties us all together is that we all have a certain level of pride for what we do every day and for what we represent.
What do you think defines Goose Island's success as a brewery?
A truly diversified portfolio. We put a high priority on innovation or research and development, and also creativity. We are very inclusive with all the people who work here, so anybody can bring their idea to fruition. A lot of people over the years have contributed to recipes here, and each time a good beer was made, it stuck and it was viable.
Our Goose Island tour guide took me behind the scenes to show me where some of the magic happens.
We actually work with some pretty sensitive yeast in here, so we have a foot bath you need to step into going in.
Of course.
So this is our innovation room. But this room is kind of a playpen for the brewers, and that'd be a space for the brewers to come in and work on whatever they want to work on. So we have kind of a variety of different barleys that they can play with. We have some caramel malt. So you have your grain, you have your barley, and then water obviously is mixed into it. And the other ingredient you're going to use is going to be hops. So let's say we want to use this as an aromatic hop. And a good way to get a test where you can actually kind of rough it up a little bit and then give it a good smell. And depending on what we want to get from a specific variety, we can adjust what process we run it through in the brew kettle.
We'll use about 30 different yeast strains this year. The yeast defines the flavor profile more than any of the other ingredients. So if we were only using a few different yeast strains across 60 different beers, we would develop what's known in brewing as a house flavor. So there wouldn't be anything wrong with any one of the beers, but they would just resemble each other too much.
This is amazing.
The brew kettle right behind us, that's going to be kind of the primary vessel in this part of the brewery. And this is where we're going to be producing something called worts. It's kind of the starting process of beer. Once we've got our wort prepared up here, what they're going to do is take a mixture of water, grain sugar, and hops and boil that.
And then you take it off boil, and it goes in the tanks.
That's right. We'll actually force oxygen into the mixture, because what we're going to do in the cellar is add yeast. That yeast is going to metabolize the grain sugar we extract from our barley, break it into alcohol, carbon dioxide, and So what we're gonna do is drop the temperature down, and that takes us about 3 days because there's so much volume. We'll then run it through a centrifuge to remove any leftover particulate. It spins at a couple thousand RPM, and that's gonna spin 300 to 450 barrels. We will make smaller batches. The lowest that will run through that filter would be about 50 barrels.
Now these are all empty bottles going on the line?
Empty bottles are gonna be going down at the start of the line.
And with that, it was on to the bottling area.
All right, so this is our packaging line. It's gonna be running at about 215 bottles a minute.
The humidity, you can smell the hops. It's like the tropics in here.
So essentially the way the process works is we'll use this machine to clean the bottles out on the inside. We have our filler over there. Once we fill the bottles, we're gonna reuse our interior rinse water to wash the outside of the bottle, and that alone saves us about 1 million gallons of water a year. Wow. Then we have to flash heat them, stick the label cleanly on, and it'll actually adhere. Yeah. From there, we'll actually x-ray the bottles to make sure they're filled high enough, as well as acoustically test the integrity of the cap.
Acoustically?
So essentially, they'll drop a short distance onto a metal plate, and then based on the frequency, we can tell whether or not the cap is locked to the top of the bottle. We can do about 1,000 cases of beer in an hour and about 50 kegs of beer in an hour at the same time. So quite a lot's going out.
How many barrels do you produce every single day here?
Oh God, it depends on a day. So I'd say the upper limit of what we could produce would be about 500 barrels in a day.
The year is 2016. Why are we still using wood barrels for storing your beer?
It imparts unique characters that you don't get anywhere else.
So you're using bourbon casks?
Yeah, we use bourbon casks for our Bourbon County Aged Stout, and then we also have our 5 sour sisters that we age in wine casks. But part of it's so that we get a more neutral oak character. We also get a bunch of growth of different microorganisms, and that's where the souring comes in.
Well, I love microorganisms. Let's go try some.
Work our tails off to protect this great culture that we have. And what Goose is a little bit different than a lot of other breweries. For instance, when you compare us to a brewery that might be out in Colorado or out in California where they might be in the mountains and have this beautiful setting, well, we're industrial, we're urban. So that's why you see brick in the background. You'll see Chicago skyline in a lot of the packaging because that's who we are. But this common thread throughout the company is this very high reverence for the beer.
Goose Island was founded by John Hall after a fateful trip across Europe inspired him to bring craft brewing to his hometown of Chicago.
There hadn't been a brewery in Chicago that produced beer for many, many years when John decided to open it. People thought he was crazy.
He had no experience in brewing. He had no experience in the restaurant business, and he put a business plan together, got some investors, and opened up the Goose Island Beer Company on Clybourne, still standing strong today.
But that culture of experimentation is still standing today.
More than ever. Brewing is art. It's a science, yes.
It is art.
And brewing is art.
So it's this ongoing process. You know, it's not just writing a recipe, it's the development piece. You're gonna brew it, taste it, critique it, brew it again, maybe brew it again, and brew it again.
The secret is really chemistry, creativity, and a little bit of OCD.
More than a little bit.
So that's what I'm sensing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, when they come into our barrel aging warehouse, they will tell us this is the coolest place in Chicago. Now, I won't make that claim, but I'm just telling you that's what people say.
I'd like to get a little Razor scooter and scoot around here because it's like the perfect floor for it.
Let's get this guy a scooter.
Yeah.
The art of beer is like the art of a great brand. It's about people coming together that love what they do and who they do it with passion and heart, and a process that's unlike any other. In Chicago, oh, how I love you. You have no shortage of great brands. For the 12 that we featured this year, thank you. I'm gonna take a ride. Maybe we'll come to your city soon. Auf Wiedersehen.
We're Chicagoans. That's what we
Chicago.
do. Here's Chicago. That's a wrap.